Tonight on NewsWatch, targeting terrorists around the world. More on the high-risk raids the U.S. carried out over the weekend.
Plus, no end in sight to the partial government shutdown, the impending deadline that's raising the stakes for lawmakers. And meet the men and women who are protecting us from tsunamis. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. 2 anti-terrorist raids by U.S. Special Forces in Africa produced mixed results this weekend.
In Libya, they captured a suspect in the 1998 Kenya embassy bombing, but a Somalia raid against al-Shabaab for the recent Kenya mall bombing failed.
John Waggy has details in tonight's top story.
The 2 raids went down almost at the same time and nearly 3,000 miles apart in al-Qaeda hotbeds in 2 very different regions of Africa. First, Navy forces from SEAL Team 6 stormed a Somali coastal town south of the capital, Mogadishu. The target was an operative from al-Shabaab, affiliated with al-Qaeda. He's Abdul Qadir Muhammad Abdul Qadir, wanted for planning attacks on Western interests. The U.S. was concerned he could be orchestrating another brutal attack, such as the one that killed nearly 70 people and wounded nearly 200 others at a Kenyan mall last month. Although details are sketchy, it appears the SEALs were unharmed but ended the attack after a fierce firefight without getting their man.
They wanted to make sure that there were not a lot of civilian casualties. They wanted to make sure that there was not collateral damage.
American forces had more success a few hours later in Libya, capturing the architect of 2 U.S. embassy bombings 15 years ago in Kenya and Tanzania. The U.S. had indicted and offered a $5 million reward for Abu Anas al-Libi. On Saturday, the FBI, the CIA, and the Delta Force combined to grab him off the street in Libya. Family members say al-Libi was taken with no shots fired. His capture prompted a warning from Secretary of State John Kerry.
The United States of America will never stop in its effort to hold those accountable who conduct acts of terror, and those members of al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations literally can run, but they can't hide.
Al-Libi spent time with Osama bin Laden, which gives officials hope they can glean important intelligence information about al-Qaeda.
I think there's a lot he can say, and I think there's a lot of gaps he can fill.
But the mixed results of the U.S. African raids point up the growing dangers posed by al-Qaeda and al-Shabaab throughout the continent, and the military intervention could trigger more attempts by radical Islamists to attack U.S. and Western interests. John Waggy, CBN News.
For more on this, we're joined now by Cliff May. He is the president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Cliff, is the Western world in more danger from terrorism than it's ever been?
It's a very hard thing to quantify accurately. What we can certainly say is that there are multiple dangers from jihadism, from Islamism, from revolutionary Islam, call it what you will. It's not just from one base in Afghanistan anymore. It is proliferated. Plus, there are the Iranian jihadists and all those that the Iranian jihadist regime in Tehran support. So terrorism and jihadism, which is the ideology, movements, and regimes behind it, this remains the most important national security threat to the United States and really to other free nations.
Is the U.S. projecting such a weak image in the world that terrorists are emboldened?
Certainly, that can be the case. I would say the 2 attacks of the weekend in Libya and Somalia are contrary to that. I think that's why those were good things. We were going on the offensive. And too often we don't go on the offensive. We sit back and say, boy, I guess we need some more medical detectors. I guess we need to have some more people take off their shoes and belts. But we don't go on the attack against terrorists, killing them, and probably more importantly, capturing them and interrogating them, because only through that interrogation can you get the intelligence you need to mount a good war against those who have declared war against you.
Talk a little bit more about those attacks when the U.S. went on the offensive. What is your take on the mixed results of the terror raids over the weekend, and what message does that send to al-Qaeda and others?
Well, Look, these guys are very capable. This is not a simple thing. We're not, every time we do a raid, I would like to think it's going to be totally successful, but that's not the case. The U.S. took no casualties. We had nobody killed, nobody wounded. In Libya, we got the target. That's a great success. In Somalia, the resistance against our attacks was more formidable than probably had been expected. And there was also the fear of injuring civilians. We don't like to do that. Our enemies love to do that. So you go into battle, you don't know exactly how it's going to come out. But I think the important thing is to go into battle. And I think it's very important that the terrorists out there understand that we are coming for them. We're not just simply trying to protect ourselves and trying to strike back after they hit us. We are going to affirmatively and aggressively go out and find them where they work, where they plan, where they collude against us. They should never feel that they can be comfortable. They should always know that at any moment we can be bursting in through the doorway. That way they can't put together sophisticated plots. So again, I'm encouraged, even though one of the two assaults of the weekend was not entirely a mission accomplished.
All right, Cliff May, the president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thanks, Cliff.
Thank you.
A group of Egyptian judges says the Muslim Brotherhood's political party should be dissolved. Their recommendation will be presented to a Cairo court later this month. It's just the latest measure in a countrywide crackdown against the Brotherhood. It comes after a weekend of deadly clashes across Egypt. More than 51 people were killed. Supporters of the military government fought in the streets with supporters of ousted Islamist President Mohamed Morsi. Security forces waded into the battle, leaving several neighborhoods in Cairo looking like war zones.
Syria has begun destroying the country's chemical weapons. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry acknowledged the Assad regime for their rapid compliance with the United Nations deadlines for the mission. But many are cautious about giving full praise this early in the dismantling process. Chemical weapons or not, the conflict remains. Assad government forces and rebels have continued fighting with conventional weapons, and the ongoing conflict could hinder Syria's ability to meet future resolution deadlines.
Turning now to Washington, where the government shutdown continues. So far, neither side is budging. President Obama said again today there are enough votes in the House to pass a clean spending measure, but House Speaker John Boehner disagrees. Meanwhile, time is running out before an even higher stakes deadline hits. Caitlin Burke reports.
As the government continues in partial shutdown mode today, more warnings that an economic collapse could be on the horizon.
It's very dangerous. It's reckless because the reality is there are no good choices if we run out of borrowing capacity and we run out of cash.
October 17th marks the deadline for the U.S. to raise its debt limit. The coming date has many on Wall Street beginning to worry, with investors growing more concerned that the U.S. will default.
Never before has a party threatened to not pay our bills, except for 2011, the last time that Speaker Boehner and some of the same people in the House of Representatives thought that it might give them more leverage in negotiations.
But in an interview with CBN, Wall Street Journal columnist Stephen Moore says Obama's just trying to scare people with the threat of a default.
I think it's highly irresponsible for this president to be running around saying that we're going to have to default on the debt, telling people to sell their stocks. I mean, can you imagine, Pat, if a CEO of a company started, talking down their stock and their bonds? That's exactly what the president of the United States is doing right now.
Still, for progress to be made, House Speaker John Boehner says there must first be a conversation.
The American people expect in Washington, when we have a crisis like this, that the leaders will sit down and have a conversation. And I told my members the other day, there may be a back room somewhere, but there's nobody in it.
The House did take a step to relieve the financial uncertainty of furloughed federal employees. This weekend, they approved back pay for those workers. The President and Senate appear willing to go along. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
The House of Representatives sent a strong message to the military. Don't cancel religious services during the government shutdown. The non-spending related resolution passed by a vote of 400-1. The measure addresses civilian workers who perform services when religious chaplains are not available. For instance, while Catholics make up 25% of the military, only 8% of chaplains are Catholic priests. That means civilian priests are called upon to hold Mass or perform baptisms. During the shutdown, some services they performed have been canceled, even though many have volunteered to keep ministering without pay.
Coming up, the Supreme Court is back in session. A look at the cases they'll be hearing.
In 2008, my husband Gary departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the Spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia says the devil is at work in American society. In an interview with New York Magazine, the longest-serving high court justice opened up about his Catholic faith. He says even though the devil isn't doing the same things from the Bible, he's very much still working. Scalia says what he's doing now is getting people not to believe in him or in God. He's much more successful that way. Scalia's comments come as the U.S. Supreme Court opens for business. And that's despite the government shutdown that's closed other parts of Washington. The justices took the bench this morning for their new term, quickly deciding on hundreds of cases on which they won't rule. But there are a number of important cases the court will be taking up. Among the cases the conservative majority court will likely hear this term, arguments against employers having to provide contraception coverage under the president's health care law. Cases arguing over prayer at government events, and cases involving protests at abortion clinics.
And for more on the Supreme Court's new term, we turn now to Tom Fitton. He's the president of Judicial Watch and joins us now from our D.C. bureau. Tom, last term, the High Court took on the social issue of gay marriage. Talk a little bit about the social issues the court will be ruling on this term.
Well, there are 2 big social issues. They'll be talking about religious freedom, whether the town of Greece, New York, can continue to open some of its local government meetings with prayers. They'll also be talking about the right to abortion again, and whether or not Oklahoma can restrict certain drugs that cause abortions. And in Massachusetts, there's a case related to whether pro-life protesters, their First Amendment rights are being infringed upon by enforcing a buffer zone, a 35-foot buffer zone around abortion clinics that doesn't apply to anyone but pro-lifers.
Tom, some analysts say even though this session may not have as many high-profile cases, it'll have many cases that could change legal precedents. Why is that important?
Well, it's important because there are cases that affect your day-to-day ability to have a voice in public affairs. For instance, there's a case related to campaign finance which I know a lot of people kind of roll their eyes at since it's not something they usually get involved in. But there's restrictions that many states have and the federal government has on your ability to fund candidates of your choice. And there's going to be a challenge that the Supreme Court's going to hear.
Tom, this is a conservative majority court, but some say their decisions haven't always reflected that in the past. Do you think this term will be any different?
Well, I think you're going to get some good conservative decisions on issues related to, for instance, the First Amendment rights of pro-life protesters. You may get a decision kind of scaling back President Obama's ability to bypass the will of Congress by doing illicit appointments of federal officials, otherwise known as recess appointments. So conservatives can be mildly hopeful this term. Now, of course, the court hasn't decided whether to take on new challenges to laws protecting traditional marriage at the state level, and that may come up later in the term. So we'll have to wait and see. As you know, the court was not much of a friend of those wanting to protect traditional marriage last term.
No, it wasn't. All right, Tom Fenton, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your insights.
Hey, thank you, Wendy.
Mark?
Up next, could a tsunami take out an American coastline? CBN News sits down with some scientists who are working to make the U.S. tsunami ready.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Stop struggling with heavy hoses that are kinked and deliver little or no water. Or worse, break. Introducing the incredible Flexible Hose. Turn the water on and it expands up to 3 times its original length, so you can easily guide it anywhere you need without tangling. When you turn the water off, as it drains, the hose retracts back to its original shape. Standard rubber hoses can weigh between 8 and 12 pounds, but a 25-foot flexible hose weighs less than a pound. The Flexible Hose is so compact and lightweight, a child can manage a 75-foot hose easily. The Flexible Hose will never kink and is guaranteed to take the mess out of watering your lawn and plants. So washing your windows or spraying off your gutters has never been easier. The Flexible Hose is made of a tough double wall construction that is designed to bend and stretch but never kink.
Flexible Hose is designed like a fire hose for speed, storage, and strength to last a really long time.
Call or visit FlexibleHose.com to order the incredible Flexible Hose for only $19.95. Call right now and we will include a 7-way adjustable spray nozzle free. You can choose a full action spray, a gentle mist, a powerful jet, a vertical mist, flat spray, a cone spray, or a soaker setting. So stop coiling your hose with bulky devices. Flexible Hose automatically retracts in seconds and weighs less than 1 pound. In fact, a 75-foot hose easily fits in a small bucket and stores away neatly in a drawer. Flexible Hose saves you precious space on boats and is perfectly portable for RVs. But wait, order today and we'll give you a second Flexible Hose system free. Just pay separate processing and handling. That's 2 Flexible Hoses and 2 7-way adjustable spray nozzles, a $40 value, all for only $19.95. This offer is not available in any store. Order now.
To order Flexible Hose and take advantage of this amazing double offer, call 1-800-769-3384 or go to flexiblehose.com. Remember, this offer is not available in stores, so call now.
2 years ago, a tsunami crushed Japan with waves that topped 130 feet.
It was so scary. In 2004, a tsunami killed more than 200,000 people. That one was as powerful as 23,000 atomic bombs. Coastlines around the world live in fear because tsunamis could hit at any moment.
So is the United States ready for such a disaster? For tonight's Focus Report, I traveled to Alaska to find out. December 26th, 2004. A magnitude 9 earthquake generates the world's deadliest tsunami in recorded history. The quake happened around 7 in the morning. By noon, the Indonesian tsunami killed more than 230,000 people as huge waves flooded coastlines around the Indian Ocean basin. It was a wake-up call for scientists.
One of the things we learned from that is that all coastal areas, no matter what we consider the threat, should be protected by a tsunami warning system.
Scientists at the West Coast and Alaska Tsunami Warning Center now also monitor the East Coast, the Gulf Coast, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, all potential targets. After the Indonesian tsunami, the U.S. stationed 2 scientists 24 hours a day at our warning centers, and the government invested heavily in tsunami detection equipment. The technology to monitor tsunamis has improved dramatically since 2004. Thanks in part to new forecasting software and computer modeling techniques, accuracy and warning times have improved.
When I first started here in 1986, our requirement was to get warnings out in 15 minutes. Today we average less than 3 minutes, right at 3 minutes for our response capabilities for events that are near U.S. or Canadian areas.
One example of advanced technology that's improved warning speed and accuracy is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's DART Tsunami Detection Buoy. DART stands for Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunami. Before the 2004 tsunami, only 6 buoys floated in the ocean. Now the U.S. has close to 40. They can measure a tsunami wave as small as 1 centimeter in the open ocean. The information is sent back to a warning center where scientists use computer technology to process it and then issue a forecast.
Today we can do a much better job of saying, your wave is going to arrive in 2 hours, 35 minutes approximately, and it's going to be 3 feet high.
No matter how sophisticated the technology, if people ignore the warnings, lives will be lost. That's where education comes in. As the NOAA Tsunami Program Manager for the Alaska region, it's Cindy Preller's job to get the word out.
We spend a lot of time with the kids in the schools because we've learned that children are the best teachers. And we have several interviews from children that have been through disasters, and so we really work with the kids as much as we can because the kids will actually teach their parents.
Lessons include if you feel the ground shaking, duck, cover, hold, and count for 20 seconds. And if you're near the ocean, evacuate quickly.
We have, in Japan's case, in 2011, less than 2 minutes when the wave was actually arriving. So, I mean, you have to know what to do immediately as soon as you feel the ground shaking.
Scientists say a good rule to follow is to head 100 feet above sea level or a mile inland. Don't wait for sirens or other warnings. No community is tsunami proof, but population centers can become what's called tsunami ready. I'm here along the coastline of the community of Seward, Alaska, where city leaders have set the example in making sure residents are prepared. David Squires is a retired fire chief of Seward. On his watch, the city became an official tsunami-ready community by meeting communication and safety requirements established by NOAA's National Weather Service.
It's not if, it's when. It will happen again. And we've got to be prepared for that. There's an earthquake every day in the state of Alaska, someplace.
Around town, you'll find sirens, evacuation information, and signs marking the tsunami evacuation route and rendezvous area. Emergency managers here take it very seriously.
These are the guys that make the program work. Annually, we do a live code test every year to coincide with the anniversary of the Great Quake in '64.
March 27th, 1964. A large earthquake generated a deadly tsunami which destroyed the Seward coastline. Public Works Director W.C. Casey was 12 years old at the time and evacuated with his family.
My dad actually afterwards said that as we were going through the boat harbor area and up the hill, he actually saw the tidal wave coming behind us. Any coastal community, it's devastating, the power and awesomeness of a tsunami. It's amazing what that power will do in regards to infrastructure, and people are like ants in a tsunami.
That's why scientists work to hone their tsunami forecasting skills and encourage coastal dwellers and visitors to get educated and heed the warnings.
Mark, what a fascinating story. And you think, like, in Alaska, there's an earthquake every day, so even Alaska is susceptible to tsunamis.
That's right. And the experts we talked to up there say it's not a question of if, it's when. But it's so important to monitor these waves, and they're doing it now all over the world.
And of course, living here on Virginia Beach, we need to be extra ready, right?
That's right. Vigilant. You bet.
All right. Great piece. Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Well, up next, a World War II veteran and his wife celebrate a rare milestone together. CBNNews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
Efrem Graham, CBN News, New York.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore. CBNNews.com at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see. I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
Embassy in Washington, Eric Stackelbeck, CBN News.
The source for your news, CBNNews.com.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
You might have heard of the golden anniversary, of course, which celebrates 50 years of marriage.
Yeah, but what about the platinum anniversary?
Yeah.
What is? I don't even know what that is. Well, a World War II veteran and his wife recently celebrated 70 years of marriage. That's it. Now, a Pearl Harbor survivor, William Parson, knew to not take anything for granted. So when he met Mercedes, he didn't waste any time before popping the question. They married just 3 days after their first conversation. Wow.
Submarine people don't wait around, you see.
I hadn't even thought about that.
What is that?
That we'd get to 70 years.
Good Lord, no.
You're going to have arguments. I don't care what. You just have to work through it. That's about it.
There's no magic words to it. It's just something that happened, and we're very thankful for it.
Wow, we need to bring back those submarine guys, Mark. Well, William and Mercedes have 4 children, 6 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. Hallelujah.
Yeah, well, you live in a military community. You could find a submarine guy. That's all for this edition of NewsWatch.
Remember, you can email us your comments and questions at NewsWatch. We'll see you tomorrow.